I talked to Hyunju's sister on the phone. The older sister sighed. Another big accident happened. Do you know that the financial market is in turmoil right now? What the market hates most is uncertainty. As a result, when Ronald opened the door to the trade war, stock markets around the world as well as the parties concerned fell sharply. Everyone is holding their breath and watching to see when this war will end and how far the aftermath will go. However, it is China that has suffered the most. In the week after the trade war began, the Shanghai Composite Index and the Hong Kong Hang Seng Index fell nearly 10%. In particular, the stock prices of Weihua, TZE and Xiaomi, which were designated as targets of sanctions, fell by 20% each, and Super Nano fell more than 90% as the companies that suffered damage were reported to be compensating for damages. Zhoucha, who was blamed for copying Keris technology, was also unharmed. The Zhoucha side denied it to the end, but the stock price decline was unavoidable. After the announcement, it fell 25%, and then fell again on the news that affiliates such as Volvo and Daimler AG were checking whether Zhoucha had stolen the technology. In a situation where the global stock market was in a big shock, the Korean stock market could not be safe. Rather, it was good to say that it was hit hard after China, as it is a country with large exports to the US and to the public. Because of this, individual investors are pouring their curse on me again. For the stockholders, the one who drops my stock is the worst person in the world. Is Golden Gate okay? No, we are not alone in our losses. The Chinese branch has an emergency. I also look at the stock market and bond yields every day. Feeling sorry for some reason, I said as an excuse. Even if it wasn't for me, it would have started someday. But if it wasn't for you, it wouldn't have started now. Is it? I changed the topic. How is your body? Tiring. I hope to give birth soon. Even though he said that, his voice seemed bright. I was worried that preeclampsia or pregnancy depression would occur around me because I was older. But so far there seems to be no problem. Well, it'll be fine with Henry and Ellie by my side. Wait a minute. I'll change Ellie. After a while, Ellie's voice was heard. Hey Jinhu. What time do we get back? I do not know. I'll take care of this. Hey, then what do I do because I miss you in the meantime? I said with a smile. I'll be leaving soon, so please take good care of my sister in the meantime. Don't worry. After that, we decided to go to the hospital together. After the call ended, Taekyu asked, lying on the sofa playing a game on his smartphone. Is my sister okay? Huh. No problem. In my spare time I read books about China. Since China began to reform and open up after loosening its locks, experts have made numerous predictions. It is divided into several countries, a democratic revolution occurs and the socialist system collapses, falls into the trap of a middle-income country and so on. The results were all wrong. The natural events that other countries experienced in the course of economic development did not happen in China. The reason the prediction is wrong is simple. There has never been and will never be a country similar to China. Therefore, forecasting by comparing the cases of other countries is meaningless. Even when China is growing at a rapid rate of close to 10% every year, many experts shouted out loudly that China would surpass the United States in the next 10 years. Everyone knows it's bullshit now, but back then everyone believed it. However, it is impossible for a country the size of China to sustain such rapid growth. Have you ever heard of the new normal? Taekyu shook his head at my question. No, what is that? After the global financial crisis, the term new normal became widespread. A capitalist economy inevitably repeats booms and recessions, rises and falls. However, in the 21st century, low growth has become entrenched around the world. There are several reasons. Increased productivity, lack of technological innovation and reduced consumption. However, the biggest cause is chronic oversupply. The solution is one of two. Reduce supply or increase demand. It is difficult to reduce supply, so demand must be continuously increased. So far, emerging countries, especially China, have been of great help. China was the world's market before it was the world's factory. Without China, it would have been difficult to overcome the global financial crisis so quickly. In China, however, demand has not increased significantly due to the current slowing growth rate, while productivity, mainly transferred or copied from foreign companies, has greatly improved due to technology acquisition. As China turned from a global market to a global factory, the problem of oversupply got worse. In addition, It is now actively pushing the US out of the high-tech industry and military industry. Therefore, it could be said that this incident was not just an economic problem, but a war for hegemony between the US and China. How will China come out? Taekyu crossed his arms and said, "Aren't we going to get together and start swearing at you? What am I guilty of?" China's state-run media such as the People's Daily, the Global Times and CCTV criticized the injustice of the United States and appealed to patriotism. In response to the government and media spurring public opinion, the boycott of American products centered on young people and posting certification shots supporting the Communist Party on Weibo spread like a fad. Stop the US attack on China. I will not use American products. We will fight with the party to the end. The Chinese people never give in. Follow Zhang Pinghua's comment. Separately, voices of dissatisfaction erupted here and there due to the fall in stock prices and rise in prices. All economic indicators turned to deterioration, with the employment rate falling and the unemployment rate rising. President Zhang Pinghua's concerns deepened. It is clearly wrong to steal technology through a backdoor. But China had nothing to say. This is because the United States is also involved in intelligence gathering and wiretapping activities against governments and companies around the world. Britain, Russia and France have done similar things several times. But they are pushing it as if only China did something bad. Of course, it is true that China has done it particularly badly compared to other countries. Above all, there is evidence, so there is nothing to say. In the meantime, China has justified surveillance, wiretapping and inspections based on its own laws. It wasn't the first time I've done this and I've been caught many times. Each time they escaped under the pretext of a security loophole or a mistake. But this time I couldn't. If only Karras had raised the issue, he would have insisted that it was a manipulation to frame China. However, spy chips were found here and there, so that excuse could not work. First of all, he is ignoring it by saying that he doesn't know, but as time goes on, the international public opinion will get worse and worse. The situation was clearly turning against China. Zhongnanhai is located west of the Forbidden City in Beijing. In the United States, it is like the White House and has long been the center of Chinese politics. President Zhang Pinghua convened a meeting and summoned members of the Standing Committee and officials from relevant ministries. The faces of the people gathered in the conference room were dark. These are the leading beings in China and the highest elite of the Communist Party. As such, he was taking this situation more seriously than anyone else. President Zhang Pinghua said with a heavy voice, "What is the current situation in America?" Minister of Foreign Affairs Chang Yi answered, "Not good. Republicans and Democrats, as well as public opinion, are on the side of President Ronald." When the information leak through the backdoor was confirmed to be true, Americans were outraged. Opinion polls also showed that more than 70% of the people supported the imposition of tariffs and related business sanctions. There is a cause and there is power. Even here, the approval rating was strong, so Ronald had nothing to fuss about. Still, if he had been a different president, he would have compromised to some extent in favor of concessions. But Ronald had an attitude to see the end. This is Ronald's favorite maniac strategy. The problem is that even if you know it, it is not appropriate to set up a countermeasure. He doesn't think he can do that unless he's crazy, but somehow Ronald seems like he can really do that. The US has already imposed an additional 25% tariff on $200 billion of Chinese imports, following $50 billion. It will also impose tariffs on the remaining $250 billion. Unfortunately, there were not many tools available to China. Yuan, a member of the Standing Committee, said, "How about selling US Treasury bonds?" While China sold goods to the US sold bonds to China. China is the largest creditor of the United States, holding more than $1 trillion in government bonds. In the past, whenever there was US pressure, China responded by selling US Treasury bonds. However, given the stable US economy, this means is of little use. The US is raising interest rates and reducing bond issuance to absorb liquidity. In such a situation, other countries will have to pour out government bonds into the market. So everyone shook their heads. You will end up wasting foreign currency unnecessarily. Prime Minister Bo Xiaoyu said. A bigger problem than tariffs is sanctions against IT companies. Now, sales in the US, Europe and Japan are completely blocked. Asian and African countries where China's influence is strong were willing to watch the situation, but Western countries showed a move to join the US action. It cannot stand up to the end with the US, admit technology theft and patent infringement, and make an apology and compensation. Zhang Pinghua thought, tapping the table with his fingers. What should I do? When he ascended to the position of president, he promoted the Chinese dream. The goal was to realize the revival of the Chinese nation and restore its former glory. In other words, to strengthen military and economic hegemony to push out the United States and make China the center of the world. Read more at wuxiax.com. He put the plans into action one by one. The One China, incorporation of Taiwan into China, principle, the Belt and Road Initiative, African Development Assistance, the establishment of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, etc. Zhang Pinghua has made every effort to elevate China to a position of hegemony. Did it say that heaven helps those who help themselves? There was also an opportunity for genius too. Ooh, that's big one. The big one was the biggest disaster in American history. If the United States had not been prepared, millions of casualties would have occurred. Moreover, the people there are not farmers or workers, but some of America's best talents. Had they been wiped out by the earthquake, America's high-tech industry would have gone back 10 years. For China, it was a golden opportunity to close the gap with the US and expand its international influence. But that opportunity vanished in vain. Silicon Valley was destroyed by earthquakes and tsunamis, but the talents gathered there moved to another place, creating another Silicon Valley in the United States. Did Jin Hukong ruin the Chinese dream? That alone is not enough, and now they are taking the lead in ruining the Chinese economy. Everyone sitting there thought the same thing. If it wasn't for Kong Jinhu, he is the hero who saved America. If you do, the US will not stand still. Above all, it is of no benefit. Jin Hukong did not invent self-driving technology, nor did he make OTK batteries. He simply invested in the companies and people that make them. So, it would be meaningless to come and touch Jin Hukong now. President Zhang Pinghua said. Is it possible that no one expected Kong Jinhu to do such a thing? At those words, everyone's attention was focused on Li Sui, commerce manager. He remembered a young Korean man he had met the other day. I hope they find a spy chip and move the United States. It is true that when Kong Jinhu protested at the first meeting, I thought it funny. Other companies that have suffered similar incidents have not been able to properly protest, but how dare they raise their voices in front of them? I thought I would eventually succumb to Chinese power. What is this? Kong Jinhu brought the United States into this work. The problem between the companies of Keris and Zhou Cha has grown on an international scale. When you think about it, it's amazing. It's just that you copied some technology to make the situation this far. Director Li Sui said, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Hey, let's meet Jin Hukong again. I stayed in the US to do business during the trade war. The TS Company plant, established jointly by OTK Company and Seosong SB, has started the first production. It started producing OTK batteries for electric vehicles in earnest. Professor Haman Kim came to the United States to tour the factory. Welcome. Thanks to you, I've been to all of America. You originally studied in America. At that time I was mostly in school. I haven't been able to see Massachusetts properly. The bodyguards followed Professor Haman Kim. He scratched his head as he watched the people following him. But do you even need to do this? I said with a smile. You don't know. You can't be fooled by the world's attention, but there's nothing wrong with being careful. Chinese companies have offered all kinds of conditions to take Professor Haman Kim. Some even offered billions of dollars in salary. However, the patent for the OTK battery belongs to the Research Institute, and he has a stake in the Research Institute. There is no reason to move to another country in the yard where enormous wealth is already guaranteed. Still, it was not without results, so we succeeded in pulling out a few researchers. Professor Haman Kim gladly accepted their resignation, and said that he could come back at any time. In the meantime, Chinese companies have taken many researchers and engineers from Korea in a similar way. For the first few years he receives various kinds of treatment at 2 or 3 times his annual salary. In the meantime, Chinese companies are gradually taking away his technology and know-how. After you've confided everything you know, the person is no longer useful. It doesn't even make anything new. As the saying goes, if you transplant a tangerine tree from the south to the north, it will open up. Tangja. Even if you have achieved good results in one company, it may not be the case if you move to another. In the first place, It would be difficult to demonstrate the proper capabilities in a place where the corporate culture is different and communication is not good. Although not one or two people are only being used and kicked out, researchers continue to travel to China. Immediate profits are also profits, and that may be the reason why they are treated poorly in Korea. Me and Take You toured the factory together with Daryl, Chairman Im Jin-yong and Professor Kim Ho-min. Professor Ho-min Kim said while looking at the mass-produced batteries. "Isn't China going to copy this too?" I nodded. "Of course. Do not worry. If I don't go crazy, I won't be able to afford it for a while." When it became known that I was in the United States, I was flooded with requests for interviews. From what happened after Big One to this trade war, there are many things you want to ask. I declined all interview requests. Instead, we rented a charter plane with Take You and headed to California. The view of Silicon Valley from the sky was shocking. When the Big One tsunami struck, San Francisco and Silicon Valley were completely submerged and San Francisco Bay was connected to the sea. The water that filled the city ran out, but what remained was a ruined city. The Golden Gate Bridge, which symbolized San Francisco, was cut off and submerged in the sea. I've seen it a lot through photos and videos, but seeing it with my own eyes, I can feel just how amazing things have happened here. Still, what makes this scene not so terrifying is that many people have survived. As long as you are alive, there is hope. Restoration work was already in full swing in the less damaged outlying areas. Heavy machinery moved busily and cleared debris. In the next year or two, large-scale construction and infrastructure projects will take place here. And it will be a new opportunity for us. I put on my comfy attire and hat, and walked into the California Institute of Technology. It was on vacation, so the campus was quiet. I had a book in my hand that I bought at a nearby bookstore. It is a hot new book that was published recently and is titled, After the Big One. The author is Professor Kiran Mohan. It is a kind of memoir that contains the circumstances before, during, and after Big One happened. The book was translated into 14 languages and published simultaneously around the world, and immediately became a bestseller in every bookstore. After Big One, Professor Kiran Mohan became the most popular person. He also appeared on the cover of Time magazine and was named one of America's 10 most influential intellectuals. Tens of millions of dollars of donations were collected to express gratitude, but Professor Mohan did not receive the money and donated all of it to the Big One Damage Fund. Geology is not a very popular subject. This is because, unlike other departments that guarantee employment in global IT companies, this is because the department does not offer jobs that well. But now it has changed. Interest in geology exploded due to Big One, and the competition for freshmen this year recorded an all-time high. Everyone has wanted to listen to Professor Kiran Mohan's lecture at least once, and it is said that lectures are always full. I came here today because the publication anniversary of After the Big One is held. Originally, it was going to be held in the auditorium, but the number of participants was too high, so we hastily moved to the gym. If the California governor and senators were in attendance, I'd say it all. The publication commemorative party was in full swing, and as many local officials and politicians attended, the organizers and bodyguards guarded the entrance. As I approached, the guard who was standing there said, "Can you show me the invitation?" "I don't have an invitation, can I just come in?" Then the facilitator said firmly, "No. Because the inside is already full." Still, I came here from afar to say hello to the professor. "Just go back." As he blinked, the bodyguards approached this way. I took off the hat I was holding on to. The host and bodyguards were shocked when they saw my face. "Ugh. Come on, Jinhu Kong. If you say no, I will wait here until the event is over." At my words, they all shook their heads. "Oh no. You can come in." "Really?" "No, of course. What are you doing? Come on, open the door." "Thank you." I went into the gym. The inside was crowded. Not only the prepared seats but also the aisles were full of people. Students, politicians, locals, CEOs of companies headquartered in Silicon Valley, survivors of the Big One, etc. It was truly a gathering of people from all walks of life. The reporters gathered at one side worked hard to take videos and photos. Among them was Professor Kiran Mohan holding a microphone. There was no place to sit, so I stood at the back of the second floor and watched the publication ceremony. One person asked if it was Q&A time. Will Big One happen again in the future? No one can predict that. Although science has advanced, there is so much we don't know about the Earth. So, the weather forecast from the U.S. Meteorological Administration is always wrong. Laughter erupted from all over the place. One thing is certain, if that happens again, we will definitely find a way. Even now, research to predict or prevent earthquakes is being actively conducted. If a similar situation arises next time, I believe we will be able to handle it better then. Now the budget has increased significantly. He laughed again at those words. This time, an Asian who appeared to be a student took over the microphone. What would have happened if Kong Jin, who wasn't there? I do not know. I'm curious as to how it turned out. More people would have lost their lives, and maybe it could have been me or you. Professor Mohan was no longer able to speak, and so were the others. There was silence in the gym for a while. Professor Mohan raised his head as if trying to say it again, and at that moment our eyes met. Maybe you didn't find me? Thinking so, Professor Mohan opened his mouth wide in surprise. How are you here? Then everyone's eyes turned to me. I had to take off the hat I was wearing. Then the people shouted in astonishment. It's after Gang Jin. What? Really? That's right, after Gang Jin. Nonsense. 5. Oh my God. They all took out their phones and took pictures. The people sitting in the aisle got out of the way on their own, and I went downstairs. We greeted each other warmly and hugged each other. We haven't known each other for a while, but it felt like meeting an old comrade that we had broken up with, perhaps because we had gone through hard times together. How have you been? Professor Mohan said with a happy expression on his face. Why did you come without a word? Professor, there is a publication anniversary party, so you have to be able to stay still. I'm here to congratulate you. Then why didn't you contact me beforehand? I want to surprise you, Professor Mohan said, pointing at me. As everyone knows, this is Jin Hukong. Please applaud. Clap, clap. People jumped up and clapped in unison. From now on, if you have any questions, you can ask them here. Actually, I've been holding on to it since before, but I'll go to the bathroom for a while. Yes. Professor Mohan handed me the microphone and then left the gym. While he was away, I had to answer questions from all directions one by one. The publication celebration ended with great success, and the article was published in media all over the world. China has warned that U.S. unilateralism is undermining the world trade order, but emphasized U.S.-China cooperation in a statement by Foreign Minister Chang Yi. Read more at wuxiax.com. Cooperating benefits everyone, fighting hurts everyone. The essence of bilateral relations is win-win cooperation. Cooperation between the two major markets, Central America, is the way to benefit the world. China stands ready to resolve conflicts with the United States and build trust and respect for each other. But Ronald scoffed and declared tariffs on the remaining $250 billion of Chinese exports as scheduled. The United States has no reason to end its trade war with China hastily. We will continue to do this until China changes its existing unfair practices. China forced foreign companies to transfer technology, infringed patents, stole intellectual property rights, and even planted spy chips on servers and stole technology through backdoors. And even now they are still engaged in theft and robbery. America has been brutally trampled and raped. Ronald told reporters. America will not tolerate it any longer. We will also review sanctions against all companies that do business with Chinese companies listed on the sanctions list. Those companies will be restricted from doing business with the United States in the future. The reporters were left speechless by the powerful measures beyond their imagination. How many global companies do not do business with U.S. companies? In effect, it was a secondary boycott, secondary sanctions, which was equivalent to ordering the world not to do business with Chinese companies at all. This is an unavoidable measure to keep America safe. After the shock passed, the reporters all asked questions at once. Are there any fears that American companies will become isolated? How will China react? Do you think other countries will join? Ronald raised his hands and said sarcastically, America is not stupid. We will only deal with companies and countries that abide by the rules. Do you want to do business with the U.S.? Then just follow our rules. Don't do it if you don't like it. Aren't we whining about making a deal? I met Commerce Manager Li Suwei and Vice Chairman Wang Yichang at a hotel in Detroit. They both looked worse than when they met before. I made my own tea for them from afar. It's the boy tea that you gave me as a gift before. It's good to drink. Neither of them touched the car. I put the teacup on the table and sat down. You said you would regret it last time, but why did you come back to me? Li Sui, Director of Commerce, asked me. What do you want? Instead of answering, I looked at Vice Chairman Wang Yichong and said, I ask you again. Can you really say that Zhou Cha did not copy Keris technology? He didn't answer my words. Well, even if you have 10 mouths, you won't have anything to say. I drank enough pure tea and said, no matter what you do, shouldn't apology and compensation come first? And we need to be sure that this will not happen in the future. The United States did not allow countries to challenge their hegemony. The Soviet Union, which once divided the United States and the world, has disintegrated and disappeared into history. Japan, which had been economically chasing the United States to the waist, fell into a long-term recession for 20 years due to the Plaza Agreement, actually a one-way notice from the United States. And this time it was China. For this reason, China was feeling a sense of crisis, considering this incident as the Second Plaza Agreement. However, even if the US is a hegemon, it cannot do everything it wants. Actions that are not supported by other countries will inevitably be stopped. However, the majority of countries supported this event. It is because all countries have suffered from reckless patent infringement by Chinese companies. China's power has been suppressed so far, but when the US came first, everyone started to speak up. The NATO alliance, which once seemed shaky, is so strong. On the other hand, the Chinese side did not have many allies. In neighboring countries, anti-Chinese sentiment was heightened by China's unilateral expansion policy, and there was also a sense of crisis about China's hegemony. And in the original fight, it is normal to stick to the winning side. But now, doesn't it look like the US is going to win? Only the Chinese state media is saying that China will win. Vice Chairman Wang Yichong said with a sigh. There is a saying in China that people struggle to gain face even after death. If they admit that they stole the technology through the back door, that means what their face will be. Although it is an Oriental culture that emphasizes face, China is particularly harsh. In a nutshell, they say, Deng Xiaoping fed the Chinese, but Mao Zedong saved the Chinese face. It means that it is more important to gain face than to eat. Taekyu rubbed his eyes and muttered. No, why do people with such a high face value steal other people's things? Li Sui, Vice President of Commerce, and Wang Yichong, Vice President of Commerce, who heard the words through an interpreter, were wrinkled, but did not respond in any way. Commerce Director Li Sui said persuasively, don't we also have a position? I hope Professor Kong understands. I hope it ends well, even considering the relationship between Korea and China. Vice Chairman Wang Yichong continued. Of course, I will show sincerity to the Zhou Cha side. Even if compensation can be paid under other pretexts, does it mean that technology theft is not acceptable? He tried to pretend to be calm, but he couldn't hide his impatience. With the support of the Chinese government, Zhou Motors, which has grown to become the largest automobile company in China, is actively developing future cars and exporting them. Taking over Volvo, Lotus, and Daimler AG with a large amount of money and buying stakes was a stepping stone for entering Europe. However, it is included in the sanctions and all export routes are blocked. Acquired companies have shown a movement to distance themselves from the headquarters for fear of technology leakage, and the EU is also considering its own sanctions. If the problem with Keris is not resolved, both investment and exports are bound to suffer. These concerns continued to drive the share price down. I said with a smile. I think face is the right thing to do when you admit you did something wrong and apologize. Otherwise, there is no negotiation. Zhou Cha issued an apology. It is said that some technicians have confirmed that they have stolen Keris autonomous driving technology. Zhou Cha announced that he would fire all those involved, ask the law enforcement agencies to investigate, and stop the JW8 release. Zhou Cha admits to patent infringement by Carlos. Confirmed that JW8 self-driving technology has copied the technology of Keris. JW8 full release discontinued. Technical team leader Wei Qinghong responsible and resigned. Chairman Zhou Kai promises an apology and compensation to Keris. It was unprecedented for a Chinese conglomerate to admit to patent infringement. Until just before, Zhou Cha insisted that there was no technology hijacking, and emphasized that the JW8 is an autonomous vehicle made with China's own technology. However, when this word was overturned, the Chinese were engulfed in great shock. What? Did Zhou Cha really copy the Keris technique? Nonsense. No way. Please someone tell me it's a lie. Is this the quality of the continent? I'm all out of whack. You're ruining the face of the country. It's a shame that we're the same Chinese. I'd rather die. Apologize to all Chinese by taking your life. However, such articles quickly disappeared. Instead, articles with different contents began to appear as if they had made it. This is all because of U.S. trade retaliation. I heard from an insider of Zhou Cha, saying that it was an inevitable choice to protect the country. The beginning was the problem of technology takeover of Zhou T raised by Carlos. Jin Hukong brought up the spy chip issue to prove it, but it turned out that it was all evidence fabricated by the investigation of a Chinese institution. Whoa. Angry and sad. Kneeling in front of fabricated evidence. Hey, there's been a lot of commotion internationally, but if it turns out that's not true, I won't have anything to say. It was a choice for the nation's centenary, so I respect it. Every dignitary. Even if a deer is a horse, a deer is a deer. How is this different from the Gulf of Tonkin incident? In order not to face such injustice in the future, we, China, must develop more strength. Let's work together for the revival of the Chinese nation. Jody, cheer up. Don't ride a foreign car. Let's cheer on the Zhou T. Posting the Zhou T logo and the 5-star red flags on Weibo has spread like a fad. Zhou Cha also sent out image advertisements emphasizing patriotism and ethnicity. The Global Times and the People's Daily also defended Zhou Cha, saying that it was inevitable to lift the sanctions. Some intellectuals expressed concern about this, but it was not in the mood to speak out. In the midst of this, a famous Chinese actor posted a post saying, "Isn't it right to steal technology?" The reaction of other countries to this atmosphere in China was ridiculous. I was amazed to see an article reporting the reaction in China. Lu Xun wasn't a great writer for nothing. Who is Lu Xun? Chinese novelist. Do you know the novel called Aqu Jianjin? Taeyong nodded his head. Then, does anyone know that? I was quite surprised. Have you read it? I didn't read it properly, but I know that the main characters there are the ancestors of keyboard battlers, mouth fighters and follicles in the corner. That's right. Aqu, the protagonist of the battle where when he was slapped while arguing he slapped him on the cheek with his own hand and then said, "I hit me so I won." At the time he said that Lu Xun was used to ridicule Chinese people who live in their own thoughts without knowing anything about the world. Looking at it like this, it seems like nothing has changed since then. Anyway, you should get as much money as possible. Taeyong nodded his head. Then, a real apology comes with money, right? The amount of compensation is being negotiated in the $1 billion range. From the point of view of Zhou T, they have not been able to sell a single car, but they have to spit out about 1 trillion won. Measures will also be taken in cooperation with the U.S. administration to prevent something similar from happening. The trade war, which had escalated to the forefront of the G2, has softened slightly with the announcement of Zhou Cha's apology. In fact, it was almost as if China had taken a step back. President Ronald and President Xi Jinping agreed to hold a summit in New York. The world's attention was focused on New York and I headed to New York with Taekyu. A few hours before the summit, we entered the hotel surrounded by Asian bodyguards. A thorough body search continued from the entrance. After going through several stages of checkpoint and search, there was a man there. Tall and broad shoulders. Moderately fat face. He was in his mid-60s but he looked much younger than that. This person is President Xi Jinping, the leader who leads a huge continent with 1.5 billion people. He never thought in his lifetime that he would ever meet the Chinese president. It wasn't awkward at all, even though it was the first time we met because we had met many times through TV and newspapers. In fact, he has a warm impression like a neighborhood uncle. The Chinese called him by the nickname Zhang Dida, Uncle Zhang, and regarded him as friendly. He deliberately emphasizes a lot of commonplace and simple appearance. However, this is only an appearance. He is a person who has completely changed the Chinese political system. Deng Xiaoping, who came to power after the failure of Mao Zedong, Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, recognized the problems of a one-man dictatorship more seriously than anyone else. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. However, he cannot deny the one-party Communist Party system as long as he maintains socialism. For this reason, Deng Xiaoping created a collective leadership system so that they could check each other over power within the party, and this has continued until recently. Read more at wuxiax.com. What comes out of this is the faction within the Communist Party called the Prince's Party, the Gongchangdan and the Shanghai Bang. The Prince's Party is the descendant of the communist elders who fought together in the Great Campaign and the Civil War, and the Gongchangdan is an abbreviation of the Chinese Communist Youth Corps, which is widely comprised of young communist members and Confucianists. And, as the name suggests, the Shanghai Bang is a new force that has advanced into the central government centering on Shanghai. They are the beneficiaries of reform and opening up and the elites who lead economic development. They controlled and cooperated with each other and led a huge continent. They also took turns taking over power. The fifth president Jiang Zemin is from Shanghai, the sixth president Hu Jintao is from the Gongqing-dan, and his successor Zhang Pinghua is from the Prince's Party. Instead, Bo Xiaoyu of the Public Hearing Group sat down as prime minister to balance each other out. The reason Jiang Ping was able to become a president is because he was not particularly prominent from his youth. He didn't go anywhere and he didn't make enemies. He was simply doing his duty silently. When Zhang Pinghua became president after Hu Jintao, political experts predicted that he would be the person best suited to the collective leadership system and would lead China stably across various factions. But that was just an illusion. That's why you shouldn't trust the experts. Zhang Pinghua, who has gradually increased his power without realizing it, one day drew the sword of eradicating corruption. He said, quoting Dubois' poem, "A bamboo that has grown arbitrarily should be cut down at least 10,000 trees." Even though it was not reported in the media, corruption among the party's high-ranking officials was serious. Whatever the intention, it was strongly supported by the Chinese. Politicians' necks were cut one after another by the blade of anti-corruption. The most representative case is the arrest of Fu Cheng, secretary of the Chongqing Municipal Committee and the head of the Crown Prince Party. When he was overthrown, the Prince's Party was completely in the hands of Zhang Pinghua, and other people from the Gongqing gang in Shanghai were captured one after another. But somehow the blade of anti-corruption did not reach Zhang Pinghua's aides at all, but only the opposition. The only way to survive is to bow your head. When this happened, all the clan and all were busy lining up towards Zhang Pinghua. In addition to the existing Prince's Party, Gongqiangdan and Shanghai Bang, experts have created and classified the Jiangping flower system separately. The Shanghai Room was almost dead and the public core held their breath, waiting for Zhang Pinghua's tenure to end. The president can be re-elected up to 3 times, and then the power must be handed over. As the Shanghai Room collapsed, it was certain that the next president would come from the public hearing. By the way, at the National People's Congress, President Zhang Pinghua revised the constitution and abolished the term limit for the president. This made it possible to rule for life. This meant that the collective leadership system that had led the great continent after Deng Xiaoping ended and Zhang Pinghua's one-man independent system began. Foreign media called him the Emperor Jiang in a sarcastic sense. Considering his current status and position in China, he would not be wrong. President Zhang Pinghua smiled kindly and took my hand. "Nice to meet you." I took the hand lightly. "Nice to meet you. This is Jin Hukong." Somehow there are many dictators or long-term rulers in the neighboring countries of Korea. North Korea, Japan, Russia, China, Philippines, etc. At this point it seems strange to me that Korea changes its president every 5 years. I saw Zhang Pinghua's tin. He looked comfortable and friendly, but without realizing it he felt a strong sense of intimidation. The interpreter next to him looked expressionless, but he could tell he was very nervous. He was born as the son of a revolutionary elder and was downgraded during the Cultural Revolution, after which he returned to central politics and rose to the position of president of the country. As a figure who has gone through all of China's modern history, he holds the most powerful power since Mao Zedong. The public also has overwhelming support for him, who has taken complete control of his party. Of course, such a person cannot be an ordinary person. I introduce Taekyu. This is my friend Taekyu. He is also a business partner. Good morning. President Zhang Pinghua also shook hands with Taekyu. Getting good friends is harder than making a lot of money. If you've researched me, of course you'd know about Taekyu. We took our seats. I have heard many stories about CO Kong Jinhu. I thought that I would like to meet you sometime, and I am glad that I got this opportunity. It's an honor to meet you too. We drank tea and talked. Contrary to expectations, President Zhang Pinghua did not show any signs of anger or resentment. After a few conversations he squirmed a question. How do you see the Chinese economy? What answer do you want to hear? Trade war? Or what about the future prospects for the Chinese economy? Many people mistakenly think that I know the economy well, but the truth is they don't know. There are many smarter people than me in the world, and there are not a few self-proclaimed experts who are eager to talk about the economic outlook. I do not know. I believe that the Chinese economy depends not on my mouth but on the Chinese. It's hard to believe what the experts are saying. One thing is certain. The high growth so far will come to an end soon, and China will also fall into a swamp of low growth. It is absurd that a country the size of China in the first place continues to achieve rapid growth of 7 or 8%. Rapid economic growth has several side effects. China also faces a number of problems. The gap between the rich and the poor, the regional gap, the price increase, the real estate boom, the demand for democratization, etc. The reason the problems didn't come up on the surface is because the economy has grown so fast. Growing jobs and wealth justified the Communist Party's rule. However, its growth is gradually slowing down. In addition, various national projects carried out to maintain the growth rate are returning as a boomerang of overinvestment. The trade dispute that occurred in this situation was both a bad news and a good news. It is a bad thing that the Chinese economy, especially high-tech industries, took a hit, but it is a good thing that the United States can be blamed for the poor economy and the slow growth rate. In fact, there is nothing like an external enemy to attract the support of the people. As can be seen from the Zhou Ti incident, China's patriotism, Gokpong, is skyrocketing. Well, Ronald must have done that too. Rather, what worries me is the issue of personal President Jiang Pinghua. Most dictators have good intentions. Hitler alone wanted to rebuild Germany, which had been defeated in World War I, and Mao Zedong also wanted to make the Chinese people prosperous. However, the result was the exact opposite of intention. Hitler started World War II, which killed tens of millions of people and drove Germany into ruin. Mao Zedong not only starved to death tens of millions of people as a result of the failure of the Great Leap Forward, he even launched the Cultural Revolution. To prevent such a situation from happening again, Deng Xiaoping created a collective leadership system. Now that he has returned to the one-man leadership system, it is no exaggeration to say that China's fate is in his hands. Of course, democracy is not a perfect institution, because there is a lot of risk that the majority will make the wrong choice. However, at least there is a mechanism to check the power, and if necessary, the regime can be changed. If Korea had been a dictatorship, would my neck still remain by now? For South Korea, it is a problem for China to become too strong and come out as hegemonic, but it is a bigger problem that the Chinese economy collapses or the political system becomes unstable. It would be best for China to respect neighboring countries and continue its growth. I pondered for a moment whether or not to speak, but I decided to just say it. Even the best leaders can make bad decisions. The important thing is that when you say that a sparrow is a harmful bird, is there anyone around you who will say no? And I think it's good to hear that if possible. The interpreter's expression hardened slightly at my words, but he conveyed the words mechanically. President Jiang Pinghua smiled. I have heard good things. Unfortunately, it is time to wake up. I had a great time. If not for this opportunity, when would you have had a conversation with the Chinese president? He looked at me and said, "Nice to meet you. Come to China anytime. The door to China is wide open." After we finished talking, we left the hotel and looked around. It's been a long time in New York. I invested in a startup the other day and stopped by when I was traveling around the world. Like a city of skyscrapers, high-rise buildings that seemed to pierce the sky were lined up in a row. Perhaps thanks to the booming real estate market, construction was in full swing. In the past few years, the world and we have changed significantly. We got into the prepared car and headed home. The location of the hostel was on the top floor of a building on the Upper East Side, which is also classified as a wealthy village in Manhattan. Upon entering, we were amazed. It used the entire 2 floors and the interior was splendid. The furniture is old-fashioned and the electronics are all state-of-the-art. A panoramic view of Central Park could be seen through the glass wall. The weather was nice today, so I could see New Yorkers resting in the park. Huge modern art paintings hung on the walls. In terms of texture, it does not appear to be a replica. It is a luxurious penthouse that looks like something out of a Hollywood movie. Take you stuck his tongue out. How much will this house cost? Well, wouldn't it be at least $50 million? Recently, it became a hot topic that an apartment in Gangnam was sold for more than 10 billion won, and the price of a high-end home in the United States is beyond imagination. Originally, Manhattan, New York, along with San Francisco, is a neighborhood famous for housing prices in the United States. But as San Francisco disappeared due to the big one, house prices in Manhattan skyrocketed. The situation was similar in other areas such as Chicago and Miami. Japan was unintentionally harmed. After 20 years of decline, Japanese real estate, which had rebounded, turned to a downward trend again as concerns about an earthquake grew. Did my sister get this as a gift? The owner of this house is none other than Hyunju's older sister. The reason I got this luxurious penthouse in the middle of Manhattan is because Henry's grandfather James gave it to me as a gift for her pregnancy. In addition to this penthouse, he received another mansion in Beverly Hills. The gift tax was also handled by James. From the point of view of the general public, it is like $1,000, but Hyunju's Nuna is literally a gift, as she owns a lot of property. Looking at this house, I can see that my older sister got married to a wealthy family. While Taekyu and I have gotten rich over the years, the Goldman family is a rich family that has been passed down from generation to generation. Moreover, like stock-rich people, we own most of our assets in stocks and not much cash in real estate. The Goldman family, on the other hand, owns a huge number of real estate in major cities around the world. Then will your sister live here later? It could be. Golden Gate's headquarters are on Wall Street. If Henry later becomes CEO of Golden Gate, wouldn't the two of them come and live here? The US-China summit has begun. The meeting was held privately and the world's attention was drawn to New York. Over the next 3 days we will be discussing important issues. Between breaks, Ronald told reporters. The talks are going well. I am talking frankly with President Chang. I am hoping for a good outcome for everyone. We stayed in New York during the conference. Dinner was a steakhouse listed in the Michelin Guide. Originally, you had to make a reservation a few months in advance, but fortunately, there was a reservation program for residents, so we were able to make a reservation right away. As I sat by the window to eat, Taekyu said in a low voice, isn't that girl that girl? Huh. I turned my head. There were two blondes in dresses sitting there. One of them has a very familiar face. I remembered her name. Was it Rose McDowell? Why was that woman famous? Come to think of it, she is neither a singer nor an actress. But she was so famous that no one in the world didn't know her. Famous for being famous. What do you mean? Then Taekyu chewed the meat and said, really? People are interested in you because you say you are famous, and you are more famous when people are interested in you. Is it like a bandwagon effect? Taekyu explained it for me, who was not familiar with it. As an unknown model, she first became famous when she dated her famous Hollywood actor Louis Kidman. But 3 months later, a scene where she was having an affair with Louis' best friend Jason was filmed by the paparazzi, and she said, this is why she made all kinds of entertainment news and tabloids, and made her name public in earnest. After that, she continued to date celebrities and spread many rumors, and with her fame gained in that way, she appeared on reality shows and became a celebrity that everyone knew. She's really famous, so it's fitting to say that she became famous. If I had done something similar in Korea, would I have been buried? This is also possible in the United States. Look this way, didn't you recognize your face? Surely. Taekyu put down her fork. Oh, it's boring. I ate it all, would you like to go up? I'll just have one more drink and go. Hey. I'll go and play first. I drank beer and watched the night view of New York. Alone, I suddenly remembered Allie and her mother. I wish I had come with you. Mother, I'll give you a tour of New York. As I was thinking about it, I heard the creaking of shoes. She turned her head to see Rose McDowell standing in front of her. Nice to meet you. Do you know me? She naturally sat across from her and said, of course. How can you not know the richest man in the world? How amazing. You will actually see Mr. Kong Jin-Hu here. The clothes she is wearing are silk dresses that cling to her body. It's hard to keep an eye on her because her chest bone is visible. Read more at wuxiax.com. It's really pretty when you see it up close. With a voluptuous body and with abundant blonde hair, is she a typical Western beauty? So many men must have passed. Do you have any plans after dinner? I do not know. Rose smiled seductively. If it's okay, would you like to have a drink with me? There is good wine in the room. Then she took the card key out of the bag she was holding and held it toward me. Are you doing this because you really like me, or do you want to use me to make you famous? Either way is a specification. You don't like Asians that much, do you? She has previously apologized after remarks that Asians seemed to smell like her when her accusations poured in. Rose lightly licked her lips with her tongue. Aren't Asians like Asians too? I held out her card key on her table again towards her. Drink alone. I have a girlfriend. Rose looked surprised for a moment, but then she smiled. But now I am alone. What happens at night will disappear when the sun comes up. That sounds funny. She has a history of talking hard with her mouth here and there about who she slept with and what her relationship with her ex was. If you could be famous, wouldn't you be able to do anything? Perhaps if we went into the room together, wouldn't my face appear on the front page of the tabloid the next day? Rose crossed her legs as if to purify her, lowered her torso and clasped her chest together. Do you need time to get to know each other? Can I ask you a question? Of course. What do you want to know about me? I said with a smile. Do you want to go back to your seat or call the manager and kick him out? Her expression hardened at my words. What? At that moment, applause came from behind. Clap, clap. Good job, Jin-ho. Standing there stood a woman of beauty comparable to that of Rose McDowell. I was surprised. Ellie. Rose was also surprised by Ellie's sudden appearance. Ellie sat down next to me. Good morning. Rose McDowell, right? It's nice to see celebrities she'd only seen in fashion magazines and places like this. Rose quickly corrected her expression and smiled at her. Nice to meet you. She then looked at me and said, she had a preference for modeling. Then I think she would be a good fit for me. Seems that way too. I corrected that. She's not a model, she's a Golden Gate lawyer. Is that so? Eli said, leaning her body forward. I will also ask you a question. Where did you learn the bad habit of flirting with other men? Now with me. All of a sudden, Ellie's expression had changed terribly. Rose, who had been angered by her, quickly bit her mouth to see if she had been suffocated by her momentum. What are you doing? Don't you usually get up and run away in this case? Gee, that's a real star. Even as she said so, she got up and ran out of the store just as Ellie had said. As she walked, she sprained her leg and nearly fell to the floor. It's like watching a scene from a reality show. Aren't there cameras around? I was half surprised and half happy. What are you doing here without a word? Ellie narrowed her eyes and looked at me. I'm here to watch in case something like this happens. Ugh. Really? Then Ellie smiled. Just joke. I had a business trip to the headquarters and I wanted to see Jin-ho too, so I volunteered to go. Oh, I see. So she came to New York. I saw it again anyway. Even famous Hollywood actors don't fall for the blonde beauty they seduced. It wouldn't have happened, but it would have been a disaster if it had passed. I said firmly. Are you a beauty? You're not pretty compared to Ellie. Really? Of course. Ellie ruffled her hair and smiled. She is not only pretty but also full of charm. She is also lovely. She said she had just arrived and she said she came here. When she called to her penthouse in the lobby, she told Take You and she told me I was here. She asked, was she drinking alone? Yes. She drank only this and tried to get up. Then get up. Yes. I'm going on a date. If you just got off the plane, aren't you tired? It's okay. I have the stamina to date. For reference, she is Ellie and her stamina is better than mine. Where do you want to go? Would you like to go to Times Square? Good idea. I woke up to the sound of the alarm. Through the glass walls of her bedroom, views of the sky-high skyscrapers in Central Park looked out. The fact that she is in New York feels real. Ellie was already washing and getting dressed. Her dizzying lines caught her eye. She is silently appreciating. Her eyes met while she was putting on her blouse. Hey, what? Where is she looking without a word? Because she's so pretty. Ellie quickly buttoned her blouse. Jin-ho gets up quickly and prepares. I see. After washing and putting on her clothes, she went out to the living room and Take-You was the first to come out. A meal was prepared on her table. The menu is salad and eggs Benedict. We drank coffee, had a light meal and got into the prepared tea. See you later. I see. Ellie got off the Golden Gate headquarters, and she and Take-You headed to the old-fashioned building nearby. We entered under the guidance of a security guard. The exterior of the building appears to have been built in the Renaissance period, but the interior is state-of-the-art. Lights were embedded in the ceiling and billboards and monitors were everywhere. It was my first time here, but it felt familiar. The New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, is located on Wall Street. It is the world's largest stock exchange and the center of global finance. Taeyong glanced around the inside. I think I've seen it often on the news here. You come out every day. Especially when the stock price plummets. When an event such as a financial crisis or Brexit occurs, the images of brokers caught in a panic are published in newspapers. In the event of a crisis or disaster, it may be closed altogether. This is a measure to prevent an uneasy situation from being immediately reflected in the financial market. Recently, it was closed for a week during the Big One outbreak. The reason I came here today is to press the opening bell to announce the opening. If there is a new listed company, the CEO comes out and presses the opening bell. But on days when there is no listed company, celebrities or distinguished guests are invited to press the opening bell. Taekyu said as if he had remembered something in my explanation. Didn't Your Excellency come and press you once before? Perhaps it was. But you must be lying on the cold prison floor and resenting you. Why are you talking about it now? Now sir, stop talking. Anyway, who would have imagined that I would hit the opening bell on the New York Stock Exchange just by investing in stocks with 1 million won earned as a part-timer in a university club? Before the event, I exchanged greetings with the exchange officials. They hinted that they would like holding companies such as Carlos and M Pizza to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Registering a corporation in a country does not necessarily mean listing it on an exchange in that country. Korean companies are listed on foreign exchanges, while foreign companies are listed on the Kospi or Kosdaq. Usually, it is reviewed on which exchange to be listed, taking into account the laws and regulations related to the capital market, the accessibility and size of investors, etc. As the number of high-quality listed companies increases, the size of the exchange increases and the commission earned increases. This is why several exchanges are fighting to attract unlisted global companies. Of course, the larger the exchange, the easier it is to raise funds. Therefore, many Chinese conglomerates are listed on the New York or Hong Kong exchanges rather than on the mainland. Allegheny is listed on the New York Stock Exchange, Witchant and Xiaomi are listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. But I don't know if there will be any listings. The reason for listing on an exchange, that is, an initial public offering (IPO), is to attract investment. But we have a lot of money, so there is no problem. In fact, companies that do not experience difficulties in raising investment funds deliberately delay the listing period. That way you can sell the stock at the best possible price. Hundreds of people gathered inside the exchange that was about to open. Ages ranged from my age to older people with white hair. Mostly men, but women were also seen. Not everyone is allowed to enter here like the stock market, only those with a trading license can enter. Therefore, just the fact that you are here can be called the best elite in the financial world. Once upon a time, my dream was to become a well-known stockbroker and set foot on the New York Stock Exchange. Leaving behind Taekyu, who doesn't like to appear in the media, I stood up alone to press the opening bell. Of course, it doesn't open only when you press the opening bell. You just press the opening bell in time for the opening. The chapter opens automatically even if you don't press it. I rang the opening bell just in time for the opening time. The bell rang loudly and the people applauded in unison. Camera shutters exploded everywhere. Indices and stock prices moved on billboards and monitors. Perhaps because of hopes for a trade war settlement, the index started up nearly 1% higher. Brokers quickly checked the billboard and shouted the asking price. Instead of leaving right away, I watched it with Taekyu for a while. What kind of market floor is it? It's the market floor. This is the most important market in the world. The items you buy are stocks, not goods, and the transaction amount is just astronomical. If you think about it, it's strange. It was just that the displayed number was changing and people cheered and sighed as they saw it. Buildings, cars, and smartphones are visible. It was created by industrial capital. However, financial capital is invisible to the naked eye. Whether it's stocks, bonds, or money, they're just numbers that appear in your account. However, due to the number, factories that were in good condition go bankrupt, and the houses they used to live in are passed over. That must be the power of finance. I suddenly had this thought. If there is a person who can control this number, wouldn't it be said that he rules the world? After leaving the New York Stock Exchange, we looked around Wall Street. The bodyguards followed, keeping a distance. I put my hat on and my sunglasses on. There were a lot of people with similar outfits and there were a lot of Asian tourists, so no one was interested in us. Are you going to the Golden Gate? No. I have someone I need to meet. There is one person that comes to mind when I come here. He doesn't know his name. All he knows is his job and his face. You may or may not be able to find it with this, but you won't lose any money by looking at it once. You only know your job and face? Where do you work? JP Morgan. It's a famous financial company there. Huh. I'm going without an appointment, so I don't know if I'll let you in. If it's your face, wouldn't it be a free pass? Is that so? Well, I don't think the CEO of OTK company will be dismissive. Who are you? That. I think it's that person. I was startled to see a person walking in the opposite direction. Age is about early 40s. A white man with blonde hair. He wore a black suit with a tight fit and he held a briefcase in his hands. He spoke on the phone to see if he had an urgent appointment and moved quickly. We will meet and tell you. I'm doing my best. That part was well explained to the customer. Yes. I will be there in 10 minutes. I quickly approached him and spoke to him. Excuse me. He turned his head, not knowing I was approaching as he was walking and talking on the phone. What happened? I asked him. Are you a JP Morgan employee? That's right. What happened? That's right too. I said gladly. Can I talk to you for a moment? He looked me up and down. I don't know what it is, but I'm not interested, so ask someone else. I'm busy. I blocked the way he was about to move. Don't do that, just a moment. I just want to say hello and share. Then he frowned slightly. Read more at wuxiax.com. Look, do I look like that? If an Asian person you don't know comes and does this, it will only make you annoyed. But what if you know Asians? I took off my hat and sunglasses. I'm on an important call and I'm already busy. Ugh. He looked at my face in disbelief. Hyojin Hukong? Oh my god. Yes, nice to meet you. Taekyu asked me in a low voice. Who is this person? Do you know anyone? I told him his identity in a whisper. Then Taekyu was very happy and grabbed his hand and shook it vigorously. Wow. Nice to meet you. This is what we see here. I heard a lot about it. Oh yes. Me too, I'm happy. In fact, he looked like he didn't understand English while shaking hands. But do you know me? I've never actually seen him, but I've known him before. He is none other than the man next to me when I saw the foreknowledge of Big One. The gold Rolex worn around his right neck was also the same. According to the foreknowledge I saw, he was in Palo Alto when Big One came and he died there. However, in preparation for the earthquake, forced closures and relocation began, and the business trip would of course have to be cancelled. I thought he was still alive, but it's nice to see him in person like this. How is your name? This is Barnes Willis. If you have time, would you like a cup of coffee? He was taken aback by my words. Me? Do you have an appointment now? Oh yes. I'm on my way to meet the manager right now. Give me your phone. I picked up my cell phone. Fortunately, the call hadn't been disconnected yet. When I brought it to my ear, a voice came out. Hey, who the hell are you talking to? Jinhu Kong? I'm not talking about that Kong Jinhu, right? Hey, who the hell are you talking to? Jinhu Kong? I'm not talking about that Kong Jinhu, right? Who is that Kong Jinhu? The guy who ate a hammock in Brexit. Yes. I am that Jinhu Kong. What? Yes. Really? Hello, this is Jinhu Kong. I'm going to meet Mr. Barnes Wallace on the street for a cup of coffee. Can I come with you? Then the other party responded vigorously. No, of course. I really wanted to see you. I said with a smile. Good for you. I will buy coffee.